Do you want to win a free cookbook? Do you want to know more about one of the absolute best cookbooks of the year? Do you want to know about this wild and crazy exotic cuisine? Well, you are in the right place. Welcome to Cookbooks with Virginia. My name is Virginia Willis. I'm a chef and cookbook author out of Atlanta, Georgia. And every week at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, I live stream with some of my favorite cookbooks, classic cookbooks, new cookbooks, old cookbooks, cookbooks I come across. You got it. It's all about cookbooks. And I am so excited this week because I have a guest I have just fangirled over for so long. And she's got this absolutely gorgeous book, Beyond the North Wind. And y'all, I want you to thank you so much for watching. You can ask questions. I encourage you to. And let me bring on Darra. Here you go. Hey, thank you so much for coming today.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited. This is like the best part of my week because I get to hang out with people that I love and they've made these beautiful books. Your book is so awesome.
Well, I have a wonderful photographer and designer to thank for that.
Well, you have a wonderful designer and photographer, and you filled it with lots of beautiful words and recipes. So let me tell everybody about what we do, and then we can start getting to some questions, and maybe some folks will have some questions too. So y'all, I tell you what, so you're going to go to my Instagram feed and you're going to look for the cover of this book, and the instructions are all there. You're going to like me, like Darra. It's published by 10 Speed Press. I used to work with 10 Speed Press. I love them. They make beautiful books. You're going to like both of us and tag a friend. And then first thing Monday morning, because you know how Mondays are. So on Monday, we're going to pull a winner and you can win a copy of this book. So I don't even know where to start, Darra, because I think that most people, if you were to ask them about Russian food, they would be like,
yeah, or they'd make a bad face.
Right? So, but you're an expert on Russian food. Will you tell us, and it's a huge country, so will you just the top layer? Version. Yeah, okay. The short version.
So people have this idea that it's a really stodgy cuisine, that it's sort of bad meat and potatoes and heavy and just not interesting. And it's true that during the Soviet years, if anyone traveled to the Soviet Union, that's mostly what they were eating. Okay. But if you take all of that away, and there really is this very exciting artisanal revival of food going on in Russia now. So I urge everyone to go once it is possible to do things like that again. But the cuisine's amazing because, you know, the climate is harsh there. It covers a huge area, and there is a temperate zone in the south where they grow tomatoes and eggplants and all kinds of things like that. But you're talking mostly root vegetables. And this isn't potatoes because they weren't really accepted until the mid-19th century. The peasants were afraid of them because they grew underground and they had eyes, and so they were associated with the devil. But it's these really flavorsome ones like, you know, carrots and beets and turnips and radishes. And also they have amazing mushrooms and berries to forage. And because of the strictures of the Russian Orthodox Church, almost 200 days of the year are fast days. So it was kind of a vegan diet for many people because they weren't supposed to eat any milk or dairy on those fast days, and certainly no meat. So I want to disabuse people of that sense of it as being heavy. And also there are these really intense flavors like horseradish.
I love horseradish.
Yeah, me too.
I love it.
And they use a lot of strong mustard. Mm-hmm. All of the souring agents. Of course, we know sour cream. Right. They culture a lot of different dairy products. So it really is, I'm starting to salivate actually thinking of all the puckery, delicious foods you can eat.
Well, I'm so excited. And thank you so much for that great explanation, because I love learning, I said exotic in the intro, and people think exotic, there's this automatic association with tropical, and I meant it in the true sense of the word, that it gets exotic to me, right? Like I'm not familiar with the food, and I very strongly believe that we learn everything about a person, a culture, by what's reflected on the end of their fork. And so let's talk a little bit. You mentioned, okay, so you mentioned it's not all meat and potatoes. It was mostly vegan, or vegan as a result of the fast days, to clarify. So, and this book specifically, do you deal more with the recipes of the North?
I do. I went above the Arctic Circle to research it, the far north, because what I was trying to find was the most elemental Russian flavors. And you wouldn't find them, say, in Moscow or St. Petersburg, because there was a big influence of foreign cuisines, or cuisines from the Russian Empire or the Soviet Empire, when there were all of these different wonderful foods, like from Georgia and Uzbekistan.
Not Georgia, no.
Yeah, no, not Georgia, the other Georgia. But they were coming in, and these dishes became part of Russian cuisine writ large.
Right.
But I wanted to look at the oldest Russian flavors. And so I was looking at grains, like lots of whole grains. So that would have been rye as opposed to wheat, or buckwheat, which you either love or hate. I happen to adore. It's really nutty flavor.
Oh, it's
a lot of barley. So
I'll hold up some photographs while you're talking.
Oh,
look at that lady. I love her with her flat fish.
Yeah, dried fish. There's a lot of fermentation that goes on, a lot of salting, a lot of smoking, preserving. They used to preserve everything with honey because they didn't have access to much sugar. So all of these methods of preservation are a really important part of Russian cuisine as well.
Oh, I love that. And look at that, y'all. I would love just a big, huge, yummy, warm bowl of that. That looks absolutely delicious.
So those are actually interesting because they're a very old-fashioned kind of dumpling.
Right.
You bake them. Yeah, I mean, and they turn out almost like crisp wontons, but then you steam them so they become soft, because they were designed for making in the Russian stove, which was a big masonry stove. So as the heat fell, there were different temperatures that the food to. So those are stuffed with greens. And I think I used turnip greens, I can't quite remember, and with buckwheat and mushrooms.
Oh, and the mushrooms. So my knowledge of buckwheat and kasha comes from when I was living and working in France. And of course, Anne Willen's husband, Mark Cherniewski. And so we had, and Simon, their son at the time, was living and working in Russia. So he'd bring these huge tins of caviar. That was never a bad thing. All right, so this is another dish that I cannot wait till I get a hold of some raw milk that I can taste. So tell us a little bit about that dish.
Oh, varinets. So basically, you take raw milk and you put it into a 9x13 Pyrex dish. Obviously, they weren't using Pyrex, but it works fine for us. And you put it at a low heat, like around 300 degrees, and you start baking it. And as it reduces, it caramelizes. The sugars get more concentrated. And periodically, like after each hour, you scrape off the wonderful skin that has formed and you set it aside. And this skin is just golden and beautiful. They used to use it in the 19th century to make a very elegant dish called Guryev kasha that was made with semolina, which we know as cream of wheat, and had lots of brandied fruits in it. And it was, the layers were separated by these skins. But for this dish, you just set them aside, you bake it down till it's quite thick, and then you add just, a couple teaspoons or a tablespoon or so of either yogurt or beer or sour cream, something that has a culture to it, and you let it sit out overnight to ferment lightly and to set. And Virginia, I can't tell you how rich and delicious it is. And then you tear the pieces of skin and you put them on top. And
I know all the hardcore foodies are like, oh my gosh, I can't, because it's becoming cheese-like, right? It's like a fermenting fresh thing. Okay, so let's talk about this. You told me that I would love the kvass. Let's talk about this raspberry. And why don't you talk a little bit, please, about kvass and what that is? Because so y'all may know this, the folks of me that are already on Instagram with me, like when everyone started making sourdough, I was like, oh, let's go ferment some things. And so I started making my own kombucha last year, and I've just been fermenting anything that won't sit still long enough. And a couple weeks ago, I made a beet kvass, but the recipe that I found, because I hadn't had your book yet, it was beets and salt and sugar. Your recipe is beets and water.
Yeah, I don't use any salt or sugar. I just let the beets ferment.
Just let them do their thing.
I mean, if you add the salt and sugar, it turns it into more of a beverage.
Right.
I like to use my beet kvass to make borscht or to make other soups, to use it for other dishes, although you could just drink it straight. But for me, the kvass to drink is either the traditional bread kvass, which is really one of Russia's oldest beverages, or my favorite is this raspberry kvass that I make every summer.
This is gorgeous.
So all you do is you take, a bunch of raspberries. I can't remember the exact proportions because I don't have, it's like a quart of raspberries. And you put them in water, you bring it just to a boil, and then you let it sit till it cools to, warm room temperature. And then you add just a little bit of honey and yeast, and you let it ferment on the counter for 6 to 8 hours or overnight.
Yep.
Yeah. And then strain it off, and you chill it, serve it chilled, and it's like drinking sort of a berry champagne. It's quite dry. It has this really nice sour tang to it, but it's not.
Oh my gosh, my mouth is literally watering.
Really.
To make this.
And it's so healthy.
I know. Well, that's what I was thinking about the beet. One of the reasons that I had made the beet, and I'm going to make yours now as well, is because a beet is supposed to be really good for you post-workout, right? And so I'm all about just health and wellness, but it still has to taste good, right? I mean, I am not going to be satisfied or happy with rabbit food. I am, not going to be satisfied or happy with something that doesn't taste good. But beet is supposed to be great for you post-workout, good for your blood. And we all know that fermentation is good for your
blood. The Russians say make the blood rich.
Well, they know what they're talking about. All right. So y'all, I'm going to hold this book up again. We've got some great folks here. So Julie is here, and Beverly is here, and fellow Dom Gail Skelton is here, and Cynthia Stevens Grabart. She and I were commiserating about how much we wanted to make the raw milk dish. So y'all, please head over to my Instagram feed, and you'll see the instructions. But this book is just it's beautiful and it's amazing. And this as well. This is a great spring dish, the roasted radishes with the rye or the garlic and the caraway.
Yeah, those are a revelation because I think most Americans tend to just eat radishes raw.
Right.
But if you bake them, if you roast them, they become very mellow. And I added some caraway and some garlic and just a little bit of oil, and they take half an hour, I think, and they're just wonderful.
I think they're delicious. I actually had a bag of radishes because I bought for my salad a couple weeks ago, and they were getting a little soft, and it just kind of gone to the back of the produce drawer. And under normal circumstances, I would have thrown them in my potassium broth, thrown them in my vegetable stock. And I thought, well, these aren't quite there, but they're not good for salad anymore. So I roasted them, and I just snacked on them for the afternoon. I just I think that if people like turnips, they would really like radishes too.
There's a good turnip recipe too. Those are just turnips, layered with a little bit of salt and freshly pressed sunflower oil, which is really nutty. And then
Oh,
steamed very slowly. And they get incredibly unctuous and are just beautiful.
oh, that sounds so
And a
nice. I
lot
have
of
to tell you, you said freshly pressed sunflower oil. I'm going to share with you, there's a farm here in Georgia called Oliver Farm. And it's this great young couple in South Georgia, and they do artisan oils, and one of them is a sunflower. I'm going to make sure to send you some because I have not seen sunflower fields like they have in South Georgia, except in France. Like, it's huge.
Wow.
All right, y'all, here's the book. You got to make sure to go to Instagram and win. All right, I am so excited about this roasted celery root too. Talk to me, because we're still cold even in Georgia, and I know you're cold up in Massachusetts.
Yeah, we're still cold.
I think everyone's like, oh, spring is here, and it's like it was a blizzard last weekend in Colorado. We're not quite there yet. I think everyone's just like tired of winter and tired of COVID, right? So, but talk to me a little bit about these venison meatballs with roasted celery root and mushrooms.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite recipes. It's probably the most elaborate one in the book, not because it's difficult. It's just there's so many different parts that it ends up taking quite a while.
Right.
But basically, I was thinking of the earth and the fields and the woods. So what do you get? You have reindeer. Okay, we don't have reindeer here, but we have venison. So venison became the stand-in for the reindeer or the caribou that they would be eating in the far north. And the meatballs that you make from them are very, very tender. They're unbelievably light. And then I got lots of wild mushrooms to saute for that earthy kind of flavor. And it seemed that celery root would work really beautifully with that because I wanted something that had a bit of creaminess to it. So you make the meatballs. You roast the celery root, which takes rather a long time because they're quite dense. You mix it with a lot of butter. This is not for any of the fast days where butter isn't allowed. You want the butter here to give it that kind of wonderful mouthfeel. And you serve it all together on this spectacular platter. I mean, it would make a really beautiful Thanksgiving.
It's so gorgeous. Well, I love the fact that you roasted that celery root whole. And I have, I love celery root. And I also have a whole rutabaga up there. And I'm thinking, I want to try just like throw them in the oven and see what happens. Because I think that would be so delicious.
But you know what else is good to do with rutabaga is just to grate it raw in a salad with radishes. And it's so refreshing. Use a mustardy vinaigrette.
So I think you posted that on the Instagram. So y'all have to follow her on Instagram. And I was like, what? Because I'd never heard of rutabaga raw. It's like sounded almost like coleslaw to me. Is that something traditional, or is that something that you cooked up or was inspired by?
I sort of cooked that up. That was from an earlier cookbook, The Winter Vegetarian. Yeah. And I had forgotten about that. I ran into a friend in the woods. I mean, what else do you do here in the country? Ran into her in the woods. She said, oh, I'm making your rutabaga salad tonight. And I thought, I haven't made that for a decade.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Okay, I'm going to have to get another rutabaga because I want to have the rutabaga salad. And I also want to try, we've got, this little bit of winter we got left. I want to try some of these dishes. But you have, there are dishes in this book. I want to just be clear to everybody. There are dishes in this book that are year round that you're going to love. And I really truly do love the history of it. And I think that there's something, you and I talking yesterday, we won't get into the politics of it all, but I feel like there has been sort of a resurgence in interest in Russia. And I mean, I think it was even, was it the National Geographic just recently? I don't know if you saw it or not, but there was one of the, say, past 3 or 4 months, National Geographic did a story about the Arctic Circle in Russia. I mean, I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yes, Yevgeny Arbugayeva's prints. We actually, I splurged and bought one. They're so beautiful, of the northern lights and of the snow and these endless expanses of sky. I mean, it's so spectacularly beautiful.
I have not had the pleasure to go to Russia yet, but what we went to Iceland a couple of years ago, which would be I think the closest thing in terms of white and stark and the northern lights and the cold. And I think it's breathtaking. I can't wait to go to Russia.
It
I'm
is
super excited.
breathtaking. I mean, Russia is quite different because there are still trees there. You know,
Right. Look at that, the whitefish roe and butter. That sounds good. But I want to you told me about a quick pickle, because I think that everyone thinks of Russian food, like I said, like vodka and meat and potatoes, and that's kind of it. So I want you to please share with me your quick pickle, and if anyone has any questions, they could ask us some questions. But will you share that, please?
Sure. So I was in Murmansk, which is up way above the Arctic Circle, and was taken to a friend's house, and she served these amazing pickles. And I saw that she opened the last jar, and I said, oh no, I don't want to eat your last pickles because I know how much trouble they are. And she started to laugh, and she said, these took only 20 minutes. And I said, are you kidding? How's that possible? And it's true. So these are 20-minute pickles. So all you do is you take these small Persian cucumbers.
Yep.
And you cut them into quarters. I did all the prep ahead of time just because it's awkward on screen. So I cut each one into quarters. There are 3 of them in here. And I stuck them into this Ziploc bag. And then I took a big garlic clove. If you don't like garlic as much as I, then you can just take a smaller garlic clove and drop it in there. So
all right. Yep. All right. We'll get it chopped up.
I've got 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. In there.
This is like macro television. This is awesome. I love this. I'm going to tell everybody they have to do it like this. This is fantastic.
A couple of tablespoons of minced dill. And again, you can use as much as you like. And, here comes the secret ingredient. This is what makes it really good.
All right, everybody.
Okay, I have to sniff it first just because I can't help it. I am dropping in a tablespoon of vodka.
Vodka. I knew the vodka would come in somewhere.
Okay, so can you, I don't know how you can see that the liquid at the bottom. So I'm going to seal this, get the air out, and then just massage it so that the ingredients are all distributed well for like, 30 seconds. Whoops.
Yep.
There they are. And leave this to sit on the counter for 20 minutes. And you have these amazing pickles. Now they'll taste better if you have a chance to chill them a little so that they get crisp again. But honestly, they keep in the refrigerator for a few days and they're just awesome.
I love that. I do. I love that. And I do. I love to make pickles. Not only to ferment, but vinegar pickles. But I have never made a vodka pickle. I have to tell you that.
I can't say that the vodka flavor comes through. I keep meaning to try these with infused vodkas. Like I do an awesome horseradish vodka or a pepper. I
saw that. Yes, you have a recipe for horseradish vodka. That might.
Yeah, that was my favorite.
Near my Easter table.
So I think the next time I do it, I'm going to try with the horseradish vodka.
And I'm super excited. I make, there's not a photograph, y'all, but Darra, I make every spring a dandelion hand salve. And I saw your dandelion blossom syrup.
It's incredible. If you have the patience, or if you can find some little kid who has the patience to pluck 350 dandelion blossoms, then you make an amazing syrup that replaces maple syrup. It tastes almost like, in Russian, they call it dandelion honey. So it has a thick, almost honey-like consistency, and it's really beautiful. And I'm someone, we have so many dandelions. I'm like, get out of the yard, get out of the yard. But now it's given me new purpose every spring.
No, I know. I think so too. Because I don't know. I like I said, I don't mind because I walk a lot. So I just carry a bag with me and, make sure I'm harvesting from a place that's not polluted or safe or whatever. but try to pick them up. So, but now I'm going to have to harvest for my salve and for the honey, because I definitely, or the blossom syrup, I definitely want to try that. So it looks like we've got, so Jeff Waits is here, and Beverly Calhoun is going to make roasted radishes. If y'all have any questions for her book, for Darra's book, please let me know. And then we've got, I want you to go to the cover, the Instagram. So I've got a couple questions, and you warned me that you wanted to talk a little bit more about your food memory. So I am super excited about that. So my first question for you is of sour, salty, bitter, sweet, and savory. What's your favorite?
You know, it's hard because sour and sweet are always competing. But working on this book, I definitely moved more into the sour camp.
I like sour too. I really do. I don't know. I'm always thinking about it because I'm not a huge sweets person. My one of my favorite flavors is actually bitter. Like I love, and I know that that's not one of the, one that's always asked, but I do like bitter a lot. But sour, it's wonderful, and it's been really fun to see what everyone says. All right, so this is you have written so many beautiful cookbooks, y'all. She's award-winning, award nominee. I mean, you name it, beautiful, beautiful books, including this one. And this was on the Washington Post and Forbes magazine Book of the Year last year. So great book. And if you want to win, you're going to go to my Instagram feed, and there's also a link where you can buy it. So support your cookbook authors and buy their books. What was the last cookbook that you cooked from or were reading other than your own?
Well, after I've just said that sour is my flavor, I also do have a real sweet tooth. Mm-hmm. And there's a beautiful book that came out last fall called Now for Something Sweet. By a collaborative of women in Sydney, Australia. It's their third cookbook. So they do it as sort of community cookbooks, except they're really lavishly produced. And this one is all dessert recipes. And they're people's histories behind them. So it's not simply recipes. It is, sort of recipes really from all over the world, the Jewish diaspora in Sydney.
Oh, how wonderful. I love Jewish food. And I know that that's a big statement because there's so many different types, right? But I love learning about the different foods because I'm Christian or was raised Christian. And so I wasn't as familiar, right? And then so just in my adult life and my culinary life, learning about, Ashkenazi and Sephardic and things like that. But I think as much as anything, and it doesn't matter on where in the world it is, I love the food tradition, right? I love learning about these traditions that I didn't know anything about, right? I find that really fascinating. So what is your most indispensable cooking tool?
It has to be my balloon whisk.
Woo! We haven't had a balloon whisk, y'all. That's a good one.
I should have brought it here for a prop to hold up, but I feel like, it always whips cream absolutely beautifully. It whips egg whites beautifully. I never use the mixer for those, partly because I feel like I have more control when I'm doing it by hand. But also now that I'm getting older, it has proved to be a really valuable tool to keep my forearms strong. It does. So it has added significance to me. More than it did when I was.
That's so mindful for you to realize that, but I think that that's true, and I do agree wholeheartedly about the control. I know that when I teach cooking classes, I always try to tell people how to do it by hand. Like, yes, we're going to do it in a mixer, or yes, we can do it in the food processor, but learn how to do it by hand so you know what it feels like, right?
Yeah.
So a balloon whisk, that's fantastic. All right. And these are a little bit more complicated because some people are like, so what is your favorite cooking show, or who is your favorite celebrity chef, or if you're not a television person, what is a food person that you personally really admire?
Virginia, I have to confess, I don't watch food TV.
There you go.
I always feel as though I should, as part of my larger education, and I should be au courant with what's happening And it's just not how I relax. I don't have patience for it. So I don't have a good answer for that.
No, that is a good answer. I want to be really clear. That is a good answer. A lot of I mean, I've been in food television for 25 years, and there's a whole lot of garbage out there, that I wouldn't want to watch either. So, but having said that, I think that there is, there is some good programming. I'm like old school geek girl. I haven't done it in, I don't know, years, it seems like, but Saturday afternoon curled up watching like reruns of Jacques and Julia or Jacques Pepin and Lydia Bastianich and things like that. Like, I like those. We can leave the cooking pig testicles and handcuffs behind your back and blah, 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 blah. We can leave that. We can leave those. So anyway, well, thank you for that. That's a super honest opinion. Well, so my last question is, what is this food memory? Because with someone that writes so beautifully, I cannot wait for you to tell us about your favorite food memory.
The word favorite's always problematic because
Yes.
you have to choose among so many. But one that has stayed with me through the years is from the late Soviet period when I was in Moscow doing some research. And I met this very eminent cardiologist at a party, and he invited me to dinner at his apartment. And I was really excited because he was such an interesting man, but I was also curious to see how he was living. And I imagined it would be something rather sumptuous. And when I got there, I was absolutely stunned because it was a communal apartment, which means that it was one large apartment from a pre-revolutionary building that had been carved into 13 separate rooms that shared a single bathroom and a single kitchen. And you can imagine the kinds of tensions, and there was a certain amount of squalor. But he seated me in his small, it was like a 9 by 12 room. It was really tiny. And he went to the kitchen. He wouldn't let me come in with him. And so I was sitting and reading Russian poetry and just feeling surprised and confused and pondering everything. And he came in with this cast iron skillet that was sizzling. And in the skillet were potatoes that he had just dug from his plot outside the city, very fresh garlic, roasted or pan roasted, I should say, with lots and lots of butter. This from a cardiologist. I loved it. So he set it down on the table, the garlic just wafting up. From under the bed, he pulled a jar of mushrooms that he had foraged himself and salted. And so we had salted mushrooms. And then he went over to the window. And the Russian windows in these old apartment buildings have ledges, big ledges outside. And he pulled a bottle of vodka. And that was our dinner. And it was the most amazing dinner because he'd dug the potatoes himself, he'd foraged the mushrooms and salted them. And it was so simple, and it was so of the land and the place. And so that's what I think about.
That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. I love that. And it is, I think that everyone, it's easy to get caught up in these big things and especially like your quandary about the squalor and the crowded, and then you wind up having one of the best meals you may have ever had.
Because it was so simple and so heartfelt.
That's so fascinating. Well, y'all, I could just keep talking to you for so long about this beautiful book. Y'all, it's got tons of great recipes, beautiful photography, things, fermented things, infused vodkas, meat dishes, grain dishes, lady with dried fish dishes. Look at, okay, we got to end on something like that, right? Oh my gosh. How delicious.
Those are the sirniki. Those are the cottage cheese pancakes.
Yes, that's going to be in my future.
Might be my favorite recipe in the book.
Oh, okay. There you go. That's what I need to make this weekend then, I think. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure getting to talk to you and setting this up. And it's really been a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for coming by Cookbooks with Virginia.
Virginia, thank you. It was a great pleasure for me.
Yay. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. We've come to another end of the week. I want to thank you so much for coming this week. I want you to go to the Instagram and check this out. And then I've got one quickie because the book, this is what all the book is about. And my last little thing that I'm going to leave you on is that I released an ebook this week, and you can find out more about it if you go to virginiawillis.com. Thank you so much for watching. We got lots of great guests coming up on Cookbooks with Virginia. Bon appetit, y'all. Bye-bye now.